So what about have you come across people with addictions, drug addictions, alcohol addictions?
So no fault, no blame, no guilt, no shame, no judgment, just ownership, dude. If things are not so much, let's talk.
So you help, guys basically work through their problems. So what sort of problems have you helped people resolve?
Yeah. So a big one is sexless marriages, right? And a lot of guys think she's not complaining. They think silence equals peace. If she used to tell you these big, huge stories and share all this stuff, if she used to and now she doesn't, you're in trouble.
I have multiple questions. Can you reverse that, number one?
Yes.
And number two, how do you prevent that?
Pay attention to the stuff I tell you. Are you filling her to overflowing? What have you done to shut her up and take her breath away lately?
Yeah, overall being a good listener,
100%.
being there for her. Yeah, I think a lot of people struggle with that. It is tough at times to be a good listener. Alrighty, guys, welcome back to another episode of the podcast. Today, guys, I have Jeremy Roadruck here with me. He's hailing out of Orlando, Florida. Jeremy, welcome to the show.
Hey, Travis, thanks for having me today. We are going to have a blast. And I just want to say, I love the background behind you because I don't have the ocean. I have like a little lake with a couple alligators right now. So that is soothing. I'm just kind of staring. So if I zone out, it's because the waves speak to my soul, dude.
That's the point. You got to be living by the water supposedly has mental health benefits. And honestly, I feel better living by the water.
Yeah, just don't. If you find yourself in a dark place staring at the water going, the ocean doesn't want me today.
Yeah.
But I'll be back tomorrow to play. That's probably, we got to deal with that. That's not a good place to be for long. Once a year maybe, but like anything more, we should probably talk.
So Jeremy, tell us what you do, man. What are you all about?
The fancy name is like I'm a men's consultant because so many guys were struggling with thoughts, beliefs, patterns, games, stories, stuff we're struggling with. And it's like, how do I make sense of this? And I'm not a coach because I'm not going to sit there and ask the reflexive question, well, what do you think it means? We're going to figure out what's the story you're telling, what's the game you're playing, and how do we change those two fast so that you're a free agent, right? My job is to get fired because we resolved the BS, the belief system, or we solved the dysfunction. And so I deal a lot with relationships. I deal a lot with parenting and communication. But for guys too, a lot of guys have a problem with saying, I'm not doing so good, I need some support. Like that's hard. So no fault, no blame, no guilt, no shame, no judgment, just ownership, dude. If things are not so much, let's talk. And that's like the opening of it. It's just if you're not running on all cylinders, cool, let's clean that up. And usually it goes pretty quick. And I've done a lot of really dumb stuff. And a lot of my clients have done a lot of really dumb stuff. So you get to borrow our intelligence because we're still here. We're going to save you time. And I've got an NDA too if I need it, just to protect your assets.
So confidential advice to help you work through your problems. Yeah.
It's really, it's an interesting place to be because guys will be struggling with big, heavy stuff. And I'm like, hey, would you like a framework around that? Well, what do you mean? Well, if we had a little roadmap, right, a little ladder you could climb to get from here to there, would that be helpful? Mm-hmm. What do you mean? Well, let's talk. What's the situation? And then they begin to get the story, and now we can begin to unpack that. And not really a lot of why questions, because why will spin story. Mm-hmm. What's going on? What do you want it to be different? How would you know it's different? So the what's and the hows, that gets you into action, because now it's clear. It's stuff I can do versus, I don't know, it's just I've always felt this way. Okay, cool. Well, what's your earliest memory? Let's go there, right? Because the more we can get to what do you want, right? I had a buddy of mine and he's like, oh, I just got to change my why because like he's not making the money he wants in his business. And I'm like, cool. So money's the most important thing in your life? Well, no. Okay. So it sounds like it's not a why issue. What do you actually want? Well, I want to make more money. Cool. Here's $1. More money's not enough. What specific amount? Well, 10,000 net. Aha. Now we've got something specific. We can work our way backwards. 10,000 a month net. That's what you want. Now, how do you get there? Then we create the story to drive the game, right? We'll start with the why because, well, why do you want it? I don't know, because it would feel cool.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting because I've always kind of thought you got to have a really good why as to do something. Like, what is your why?
What's your why but to do something? Well, what is the something?
Yeah.
Right? because the why is important, but it's the sequencing of it. Because, well, I don't want to be in pain. Okay, well, what makes you think you're in pain now?
Mm-hmm.
Well, my life is so hard because. Oh, okay. And that's what makes you feel like you're in pain? Like, is there something poking out we need to pull and clean? And like, is there a cut or a break? Oh, so it's a feeling. Yeah,
so tell me, are you like a therapist, or did you go to school for this, or is this something, how'd you learn to do this, I guess,
Well, basically school of hard knocks, right? My life went sideways at 5 and 6, and I couldn't trust adults and I couldn't trust kids. And I realized 6 years old, what you say is one thing. What people mean is a second thing. And what they do is a third thing. And I don't know why those are not all the same. And I don't know what's true. And I don't know who to believe. And I can't trust anyone. So I had to kind of figure this stuff out. And how do I know what's really going on? And so that took me into a lot of different fields of study. I am a Kung Fu master. I've been a soldier, master hypnotherapist, NLP practitioner, undergrad in philosophy and psychology, factory worker, software tester, Renaissance festival worker. So I've done a lot of stuff, and I keep seeing the same, like what are the patterns that drive people to happiness and misery and pain, and how do we change that stuff? And so, I got a lot of different trainings, a lot of different experiences. As a martial artist, you get a constant reality check because someone's going to punch you, kick you, choke you. That's reality. Can you handle it? Do you get mad? Ooh, isn't that interesting? Because if someone can make you mad, they can control you because they know the right words to say. You go into an emotional state, now you're a target to them. Versus, you can't insult me without my permission. I just don't give you the power. You can just let me know where you're at. Thanks, dude. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Cool story, bro.
So you sound like the kind of guy who's Laws of Power, the 48 Laws of Power. You sound like a guy who's read that book a couple of times.
I actually haven't. I've skimmed it, but yeah, because the world I live in, you either get a loving response or a cry for help. Okay. So you either get someone's going to give you back positive, warm, big, happy, or they're going to give back negative, small, sad, cold. And all that is something in them is unresolved. And now you have a choice with that awareness. Am I going to join you, small, sad, cold? So you give me a cry for help. So I'm going to throw back a cry for help at you, right? My mom and I, we got into this argument. I was 14 years old. And she said something to me. She said, you were so much nicer when you were 4. What happened? Right? And that was a cry for help. However, I was in a really negative place. I was still in all of my stuff, all of my wounds, all my unresolved. And so I gave her back a cry for help. I fucking killed him, deal with it, and then I walked away. Right? Because I wasn't able to receive what she said from the place of she's confused. What I heard was, we liked you better. We loved you more when you were 4 years old and incompetent and incapable and docile and just did what we said. And you had no thoughts and no wants and no dreams and no desires and no opinions. And so, I took that as an attack. So then I attacked back, of course. Right? But both of us were just not in a good place. She was confused, and she had an idea something had happened, but nothing. And they didn't know about the abuse I experienced outside the home until I was in my 30s. So at 14, I did not have the tools.
You communicate.
Right?
Yeah. So you help, guys basically work through their problems. So what sort of problems have you helped people resolve? Can we walk through an example of a problem, and let's talk about a common problem that you've heard about, and let's kind of walk through it so somebody listening, maybe they can get a few tips to help resolve some of their issues.
Yeah. So a big one is sexless marriages, right? And a lot of guys think she's not complaining. They think silence equals peace. Right? And it's like, well, things are difficult, but that's normal in relationships. I'm working, I'm busy, I'm producing, I'm doing the thing. And I'm I pay the bills, I handle. And I don't really want to hear her complain because. And it's but does she ever get mad at you about anything? Well, occasionally. Does she tell you about it? Well, not really, not anymore. Dude.
Red flag.
You have... When a relationship starts to sour, especially a marriage starts to sour, you have about 2 to 3 years that she's going to go through a grieving process, and she's going to try to motivate you, inspire you, emasculate you, criticize you, shame you to showing up differently. And by the time she's done grieving, that's when you're in that dead man walking, like she's emotionally just not there. She doesn't tell you about her day. She doesn't tell you her thoughts and feelings. She doesn't tell you what's going on in her heart. She doesn't tell you about her experience of life and love. You're in trouble. How was your day? Oh, it was fine. Oh, okay, she said it was fine. We're doing great. Nah, dude. If she used to tell you these big, huge stories and share all this stuff, they're called berry markers and berry markings. The berry markers, what to look for, that's a space thing. I'm sorry, that's a time thing, right? How do you know when the berry is in season? So time. And the berry markings, this is space, what to look for. So if she's not giving you the time, the space, the energy to her day and how she feels and what she's thinking and experiencing, if she used to and now she doesn't, her bandwidth is doing this, which means her emotion for you is doing this. It's shrinking. And after about 2 to 3 years, she's out.
Can you reverse that, number one?
Yes. Yes.
And number two, how do you prevent that?
Yeah, well, you prevent it by, go pay attention to the stuff I tell you. And then, every day, are you filling her to overflowing? That's the easiest thing, right?
Yeah.
Because think about this. Think about it. You're in a relationship, this person you married, they were the most amazing person you ever met. And you married them for a reason. But over time, expectation, obligations, entitlements, all of it starts to drop. And it's just minutia, get through the day. So first step is you need to fill them to overflowing and remember who this person is. Because when they're filled to overflowing, how does she show up? How do you show up? And if either one of you is depleted, we got to fix that because you can't give from an empty cup, right? So when my wife is complaining, she's kvetching, she's just like on pins and needles. I call it squeaky wheel, right? She's just kvetching about stuff. I know it's not time to ask for me and what I want or what I need or the kids want or what the kids need. Hey guys, mom's love and aid is empty. We got to fill that back up. Mom needs 20 minutes. Stop asking for you. Ask for her. What does she need? And if she can't even tell you that because she's so overwhelmed and so overloaded, cool. She needs to sit down. She needs a drink of water. She needs a little snack. We need to take care of her first and get her filled back to overflowing. Everything else becomes secondary because she's depleted. And when you do that and you treat her that way, it's all of a sudden the grace comes back, the queen comes back. So guys that are listening, are you filling your woman to overflowing daily, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially, right? Are you putting deposits into her, not to take out or extract, but because this is the most amazing woman you ever met, and this is what she deserves on a daily basis. She is your queen. She needs to feel that and be reminded of that. What have you done to shut her up and take her breath away lately and make her go, oh, because you know her in a way no human being ever has. And if you do that, that woman will go through the depths of hell to be with you because you see her and support her and connect with her in a way no human being ever has. Right? I can give you an easy example.
Yeah, give us an example. Go for it.
So my wife grew up in a multi-generational entrepreneurial family. High-speed woman. When we were dating, she would disappear for 6 hours at a time and nothing to my texts. And then all of a sudden this flurry. And it took me about 2 weeks to realize, oh, she goes into work mode. Because she's in retail, family, jewelry, coins, that kind of stuff during the day. I teach Kung Fu at night. So I'm radio silent for 4 to 5 hours at night. And so I realized, oh, she's in work mode, right? But because the family she had, her birthday is in late December. She only got about half her birthday celebrated growing up because Black Friday to the end of the year, retail business, we're going to make all our money, all hands on deck, we got to work.
Yep.
And so her family relies on her to do certain things. And we were very early in our dating, and I said something, and she just exploded at me, and she was like, that was rude. And I sat there for a minute. And then I was like, you're right, that was rude. I apologize. I like where things are going because we're talking about us dating and do we have a name for this and whatever. I said, I like where this is going. And the idea that somebody else's opinion might influence you and end it, that's not a more big happy thought for me. And I was reacting to that. That's on me. So you're right. Totally rude. Won't happen again. I apologize. She had never had anybody in her life apologize to her like that because I took ownership of my actions, my words, how it made her feel. That right there was the pivot point for her to who the hell is this guy?
Yeah, he cares. Yeah.
Yeah, because it mattered. Like, no, you're right. That was rude because I was afraid, 100%. But when you own your stuff, you become bulletproof.
Mm-hmm.
Because how do they weaponize it back at you? It's like, yeah, I know I said that. And what's your point? Tell me more,
Yeah.
because it's either a loving response or a cry for help. So I'm giving you a loving response. So you have to work to weaponize it back at me. And the more you try, the more I know you're not in a good place. Cool. I can show up differently, not to smother, but to validate and to acknowledge. We talk about holding space. How do you do that? Right here. I'm seeing, I'm hearing. Look, I'm not stepping any closer. Everything in me wants to come closer and give you a hug, but I'm not getting those signs. So I'm just going to stay right here. I'm not leaving. Tell me more. I need to hear this.
Mm-hmm.
If no one in your life has ever told you this before, you have a right to be heard. Please unload everything. I'm not here to make me wrong, make you wrong. My emotion about it, my business. But you need to be seen and heard. Please tell me more.
Yeah, being a good listener.
100%.
Being there for
100%.
them. Yeah. I think a lot of people struggle with that. It is tough at times to be a good listener.
Yeah, because your
it's
stuff is
hard.
in there too.
Yeah, because you want to commentate, you want to judge, you want to critique, you gotta want to, don't think of it like that.
Right.
You
That's
know,
not what I meant. Yeah, but that's
Yeah.
what I heard.
Yeah. No, so let me ask you this question. So you've coached and trained a lot of people around, these types of issues. And so, I'm new, I guess my marriage is definitely new. We've been together 4 years now.
Nice.
And I'll tell you one thing that I learned that I didn't know was a thing is that I thought it was always like two families coming together. Her family, my family, we're coming together. We're marrying families. But that's not really how it works. We're leaving those families. We're coming together to create our new family. And now we prioritize each other over everybody else.
Yes.
And I feel like a lot of people struggle with that. Have you ran into anybody who's...
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's got to be so common. I feel like no one talks about that.
Yeah. Well, you go to... Okay, so give you a frame, real simple, right? Talk about concept of integration. What's 1 + 1?
2.
1. If you want skill, if you want something that's more powerful together than it is individually, right?
Yeah.
A lot of high net people get caught in this power couple thing. And over time, they end up tearing themselves apart because behind the scenes, they're crashing. Look how hard I'm sacrificing. Look what I'm doing. Look what I'm giving. Validate me. And they're both screaming for what they need from each other, and they're not willing to give until they get what they need or want first. Power partnership, I want to fill you to overflowing because you're amazing, full stop. And flows back to me, of course, because that's who you are when you're filled to overflowing. So 1 + 1 becomes 1. We become more solid together than either of us individually, but we are our own people individually. Now, the challenge is when you have families and people are enmeshed in their family story, and who am I, right? As a mother, as a father, as a son, as a brother, as a sister, you have all these attendant roles that have rules and responsibilities. Those are all stories. A son should, a daughter should, a husband should, a wife should. Those are shoulds is not reality, it's rules. So now they're telling you how to win, cool, but you have a really good insight, which is we are creating our own family. We are borrowing from both our family traditions and family lineages. What did we love about it and why? And what did it give us? And what did it make possible? And what do we want to preserve? And then how do we do that? Yeah. Beautiful. Because it's not wholesale. One of my clients, her dad is a retired general. And she has discovered, being around military guys, they find out that he's a general. They either go bravado and I'm going to get with a general's daughter and that's going to help my career. Or you get the guys that are like terrified because, oh shit, I don't want to screw up because, I can never live up to that standard. So she needs to date someone not connected to the military.
I agree with that. Actually.
Yeah.
My wife, she was in the military. And at the time, she was dating a guy in the military, and since then, she's had multiple friends from the military who have also exclusively dated other people from the military, and it never works out.
Very rare, right? Yeah. Because you have mission critical is important, but then who's taking initiative and who's leading and whose mission is more important? And it's really hard because again, you get power couple, dueling providers. You get two people, high speed, low drag, accomplish the mission. When somebody takes on the role of provider, I am now responsible for the outcome. And
Yeah.
if I'm in a provider role, I can't tell you my plans because you might sabotage them. But if you get in the way of my plans, lose my shit. It's like, yeah, because you're sandbagging me. No, I just have different operational paradigm, right? But they didn't clarify rules of engagement. Like, what was your ROE? What's the mission? Like, we didn't clarify that stuff first.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, they just crash, whether it's same service, different services. And it's not that either people are wrong. It's just the story you're telling and the game you're playing isn't a win-win. So how do we clean that up? How do we
I
both
agree
get
with that.
big and happy?
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's a struggle. And so my recommendation to all military people out there is find someone who's not in the military.
They're military adjacent. Like, they have the heart of a soldier, or the heart of a warrior, but they're not conditioned into it. Yes.
Yeah.
1,000%. Yeah.
Yeah. And someone who's flexible with where they're willing to live,
Yes. Yeah. We've moved like every couple of years, but that's just us.
Yeah. Well, it's okay. I mean, that's what you like.
Yeah.
So what about, have you come across people with addictions, drug addictions, alcohol addictions,
Yeah.
and let's talk about that for a minute.
So we really have to work backwards into kind of what is this stemming from? And part of my background as a martial artist, we talk about like the idea of space and energy, right? And why do people get addicted to drugs and alcohol and porn is because when they do those things, it creates a feeling of space inside. It takes the internal tension down and they can feel themselves expand and relax. And it's like, oh, this feels good. Mm-hmm. And so in Buddhism, there's what they call the right-hand path and the left-hand path. The right-hand path is discipline and focus and, get rid of desires. Well, the left-hand path is the opposite, and they do sex and drugs and all kinds of stuff. But it's to get to the feeling of those advanced states and then learn how to get there without the tool. Most people get attached to the process. They get attached to the tool. So when we're dealing with somebody who has an addiction, we really have to explore where's their self-worth, like where's the gravity of their self-worth. Because if part of them believes they deserve to be punished and life gets to be too good, that ain't me. That's not my identity. And so they will self-sabotage to get back down to, I need to be punished, right? It's a concept called introjection. Like projection, you take your crap and throw it on other people, get mad at them. Mm-hmm. Well, introjection is the opposite. It's like I'm taking in the stuff and going, well, I need to be punished and no one is, so I'm going to sabotage myself. And it's not a conscious choice, right? It's just a feeling. It's like if you've ever dated someone who grew up in a high conflict family environment, a lot of stress, a lot of jealousy, a lot of manipulation, they think that's what love is as their normal. So then you try to love them from a place in the light and peace and beauty, and I'm just going to give and we're going to do all this stuff. And then they cheat on you or they sandbag or they lie or they get addicted to something because some part of them believes if I'm not making you jealous, this isn't real. If you're not jealous of me, this isn't real. I got to make you be jealous. And then you come through that and you're still together with me. See, that's how we prove we love each other. And it's like, that's really dysfunctional. But they don't know that because that's their normal. And so unpacking that, like, here's the story that's driving the game. Do you like that game? Because we can change it. And we change the game by changing the story. Where's their identity? How do they get their needs met? Right? And this is said by someone, I went through a really bad breakup and I fell into the habit of a bottle of wine 4 to 5 nights a week because it was like $5, $4. And for about a year and a half, almost 2 years, I was banging back booze left and right. And like nobody really knew it because, I was able to function during the day and I would just obliterate myself at night to be able to get to sleep.
Yeah.
And what pivoted it was I saw a picture of myself and I was like super bloated and swollen. And I was like, that's not me. And that was such a shift in impact. Like I still have alcohol and wine now. I have zero need for it. It doesn't take me anywhere. I'm not trying to get anything. Does it enhance the experience of this moment? Red wine with a nice steak, ooh, that's beautiful. Or a white wine with fruit and cheese, that could be fantastic. But it's all context driven and who am I with and is it helping? And do I need it or do I just want to have a little bit? It's a different energy. And I'm saying that applies to everyone, but that's been my experience and my journey.
So what I'm taking away from what you had said was back to the Buddhism thing where you're both hands, left hand, right hand, you're trying to get to the same place of like elevated life experience is how I'm going to describe it. And one way is like through discipline and doing the work and putting in the time, and you get that fulfillment. And the other way is, I don't want to do the work. I'm going to just cut right to it and get the fulfillment that I temporarily am going to get from that.
Right.
But what is, I mean, the root cause of why people do that is, I think there's probably a million reasons as to why people get addicted to drugs, alcohol, whatever.
Or whatever.
But how do you get people to snap out of it? Or how do people snap out of that? Can they cure their addictions? If so, like, is there a step, or is it different for everybody? Like, what are your thoughts?
The big thing is they have to get to a place of what's called threshold. How I'm living is not who I am. And it's there's a great quote from Anais Nin. It says that it's like the pain, what makes the flower bloom is basically the pain to stay tight in the bud is too big compared to the pain to change or the pain to grow. And it's really, that is the shift of like, not another minute, not another moment, not another second this way. I know I'm made for, it's an identity shift of I'm made for something bigger, greater. And either I'm going to get to that greater place or I'm going to die in the process, right? Metaphorically, literally, but it's like this behavior is not who I am. And so it's that initial shift in identity, and then it's walking the steps. The challenge is if you're not in an environment that supports that, if you don't have other people, ladders to climb, people to help, if you're trying to force of will, brute force it, make it happen, that eventually exhausts because you can only push so hard before you fatigue. And then if you crash, it's like, oh, see, I can't escape this. This is who I am. And now their identity gets back into that lower level. So you think of it basically 5 levels of growth. Level 1 is F this, and you're in the pain, you're in the pit. And that's when you're in the habit or you're in the behavior. And then F that, you're out of it, but you're on the edge of the pit. And if I make a mistake, and so I have to have discipline and solid and don't make mistakes, and there's a lot of judgment, a lot of making things wrong. When I see stuff that like, oh, you have to kill the boy, it's like, you can't be a king if you kill your own inner child. Because a king is integrated between the boy and the man to arrive at king. If you're committing violence inside yourself, your family, your kids aren't going to feel safe, and some part of you is not going to feel safe. And that's all that level 1, level 2, F this, F that. Level 3 is you're out of the pit and you see a bigger, brighter future, and you go there. And that's the window where it begins to open. And 4, you're able to get there, but you can't maintain it. And 5, it is who you are. It is your reality. And that's, you've gotten out of the pit. And so it's like, how do we shift in that? What's it going to take to shift from that level 2, pit scarcity, to that level 3, there's a brighter future, there's an abundance available. And it's who you hang out with, the podcasts you listen to, the people you read, right? It's the music you listen to, it's the things that motivate and inspire you to shift. Because if you feed yourself with life is ugly and brooding and short and we're all going to die and we're all, at the effect and we're all going to be manipulated, well, I better manipulate them before they manipulate me. Okay, that's that level 1, 2 talking. That's going to create more of the same, right? Loving response, cry for help.
You've been able to hit that rock. I'm going to call it rock bottom. It's kind of what you hit rock bottom. And there's some people that I know who are dealing with, drug and alcohol problems where it's like, my God, dude, you are beyond my rock bottom. But like, where is your rock bottom?
You have to decide.
It's like, and I guess it's different for everybody, but it's like, man, if they never hit rock bottom, then they never get out of it. What do you got?
I have a diagram.
A diagram. All right, let's see that.
I have a flow for this. So
all right.
Let me find a good pen. But yeah, it's basically when what's your mental capacity, right? What's your belief system? What's your shoulds? Yeah. And then what's your life conditions? That's your reality, right? So there's ises and there's shoulds. When those two are in conflict or in pain, when those two are in harmony, you're happy. When you put a box around it, now you're stuck and you don't believe you can ever get out of it. And so what happens is, think about someone moving along a straight line. Mental capacity equals life conditions. My ises and my shoulds match. I'm good. And then you get to this edge, something is going to change, right? Graduate high school, graduate college, start college, get married, get divorced, have a kid, have a funeral. Any change that disturbs the balance, that equilibrium, You now have a pivot point. Are you going to go into growth or are you going to go into pain? Because if you fall into pain, pain is infinite.
Yeah.
How much more can you handle? It's subjective, right? But you can go down until you decide that you're done, and that's rock bottom. So if we think about A is moving along sideways. B is this decision point. Something changes the homeostasis, right? In criminal justice, they talk about trajectory, momentum, and turning points. And this is a turning point, some impact in life, some significant emotional event, something rocked your world, and then what are you going to do? And so you drop down into C. C is infinite pain, right? It's just, it can just keep going.
Yeah.
I explained this chart when I had my Kung Fu school, and I did this for the families to explain kind of how growth and evolving versus revolting. And I explained this, and I had a grandmother, and she's like, oh, my daughter needs to hear that. And I'm like, okay, well, that's the theme for the week. And so her daughter was in class, and she's got a 5-year-old son, and husband is military, and he's deployed, and she's doing everything herself, and the grandparents are helping. And I'm explaining this ABC pain thing, and the grandma's like, that's you, you're right there, you're in pain, see, you're in pain, you have to change. And I'm like, hold on, grandma, love you, but like pause for a second. Because I can just feel mom's tension. I can just see her neck, and I can see like that one little part right there. I'm like, hold on. Hold on, grandma. Just take a deep breath. Now, mom, grandma has an opinion. She has an observation. But let me ask you, does your life have some level of pain? Well, yeah. My husband, my son having attention issues, And I'm like, okay. And then I turned to grandma and I said, so listen, she agrees she's on a downward slope and having some pain. Maybe she needs more before she's ready to pivot. And then mom said, no, I'm good. Now, the way I framed that, because grandma is pushing at mom to say, you're in pain, you need to change, that is suffocating, right? It's dominating. It's just like, ugh, like mom has no agency to say. So she's like, get off me. I can handle more. If we leave that dynamic, we're now running the risk of mom's life getting worse and worse and worse. So I backed off grandma with no disrespect, but just, mom says she's in pain. I got her to validate that. But then I said, maybe she needs more before she's ready to pivot. Now mom can make a choice because I created space for her to make her own decision, not have it forced at her from outside. So now she can choose to pivot. And that's where you create that movement from 2 to 3, because in that moment, mom has space to breathe. That's how we begin to build a new game, right? Yeah. We begin with space. What are your boundaries? What are your barriers? But can you breathe? If someone feels they're pushed to the wall, they're forced into fight or flight all the time. If they're judging themselves, making themselves wrong, if their rules are saying, I'm so bad, I'm a failure, I'm a this, I'm a that, like wherever their gravity, self-fulfilling prophecy. So we just create room for that space. Now mom can choose. And so that moment for mom can become rock bottom. It can become that D, right? And D is a decision. I'm deciding to do something different. Now, if we say, hi, I'm Jeremy and I'm an alcoholic, that's an interesting identity. Versus, hi, I'm Jeremy and I get really excited about stuff. And when I like something, I do it a whole lot. And I fell into a habit of a bottle for a while. And now I don't. Because I'm in control of that story, I'm in control of that identity. That's a different reality. It's 2 different paths.
Yeah.
And so that's how we begin to go to step E, which is actual change. Right? And then the problem is you get to position F, right? And if you look, F is a straight line back across to A. It's like it used to be. Oh, you mean before when your life all fell apart because you hit that point where you couldn't handle it? And that's the trap, is when people go back to like it used to be, that old standard didn't serve you. But you feel comfortable again. You feel safe again. You haven't grown. You've just changed by getting out of pain, which is also accomplished with drugs and alcohol and booze and porn. It changes how you feel in the moment so it feels manageable. Dude, it's not. It's not sustainable yet. You're at that 2. You're not really at 3, 4. And so then we go to growth, and that's G. And growth is usually twice as big as the pain to get where we want to go. And this is where you hire coaches, you get mentors, you work with therapists, you get different change agents, different tools. But now we're getting out of change, we're getting into actual growth. And eventually you get to a point, your new reality, level 5, that new reality is so far below or so far beyond your old one. And now your new lows, because you're still going to have problems, it's part of life. But now your new low is twice as high as your old high. That's how you know you're progressing and growing and expanding. Do I eat today is a problem. Who do I eat with is a better problem. What do I eat? Where do I eat? Those are all still problems to solve. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a great exercise. Guys, if you didn't get value out of that, watch this again.
Yeah, you should. And boost the engagements and like and comment and leave your thoughts.
For real. If you guys got one thing out of this whole podcast, I'd say that little segment right there was a great depiction of, addiction. It was a great depiction of addiction and downward spirals and, how to maybe make space, like he said, for someone in your life or maybe you who's having issues. Like, it's powerful stuff, man.
First step.
First
step is breathe, because it moves you out of fight or flight into rest and digest. Literally, you're shifting your nervous system.
Yeah.
Right? Every fighting system in the world that has any kind of long-term history begins with breathing. Because what happens when emotions go high? Intellect goes low. Emotions go high, you're stupid. You got to breathe. You got to center yourself. Can't take this up personally.
Reset.
Right.
That's pretty cool. I love that. I love that whole segment.
Thank you. It all links inside my head. This is my normal.
This is your normal, yeah. Well, I like the way that you talk and I like the way you think, because some of it is like how I think, where I'm like, I try to spin things in a positive way almost to a fault. And I thought to myself the other day, because I based my whole life off of learning from other people's mistakes. Like I was like, I could write a book called, 1,000 Things Not to Do, and you'd be successful.
Save time.
If you just didn't do these things.
We don't have time to make every mistake. Right? So let me share you my mistakes and lessons learned. I just saved your life. That's really, as a Sifu in Chinese martial arts, that's what a Sifu is. It's dad, right? The X with eyebrows, it means father. But as a Sifu, my job is to be ahead of my students and teach them not to make the mistakes I made. Make your own mistakes so I get to learn from you and we both win.
Yeah.
Much more powerful.
Yeah. Learn together. Share mistakes, learn together.
Yeah. Do dumb shit. Just new dumb shit. Thank you.
Yeah. So let's kind of shift the conversation here. So we talked a little bit about marriage. We talked a little bit about, drugs and alcohol and that downward spiral and the rock bottom. But let's talk about, business life, day to day, fears, limiting beliefs. We'll talk about let's talk about limiting beliefs, which you kind of mentioned in the beginning, and anxiety. Let's talk around those two things.
It's all BS. It's all belief systems. Right? What's the best that could happen? What's the worst that could happen? Usually when we talk about somebody who has a pattern of being anxious, right? If someone goes into anxious, what is being anxious? It's having an alarm state. It's having a sense of, I'm trying to think of every way it could go wrong and have an answer beforehand. Cool. So you're stepping on the gas and the brake at the same time and burning all your fuel. Fantastic. How's that working?
It's a good comparison. I like that.
Right? Technically, anxiety doesn't exist. Feeling anxious exists. But anxiety, the word, is what we call a nominalization. It is a nouning of a verb or an adverb. It's a nouning of a process. So I have a pen. I could give you my pen. You have anxiety. Fantastic. Give me your anxiety. Can't. So you don't have it. Now you feel anxious. Totally agree. But have, because see, when you say I have anxiety, that's an identity. I have. I am the thing. Right? I am anxious. I am feeling anxious. You occur before the feeling state, which means it can change. What are you feeling anxiety, or what are you feeling anxious about? What are you concerned about? What are you stressed about? What are you anticipating in a negative way? Because what if everything goes right? Because that's equally imaginative as everything could go wrong. So there's a great quote from, actually, I want to say it's from Dolly Parton. Worry is a misuse of the imagination.
Fair.
Because all you're doing is like sitting in a rocking chair, and it gives you a lot of activity, but you got nowhere to go. And so you're sitting there stressing about how it could go wrong, but it could just as equally go right. So is it really anxiety, or is it anticipation of a negative outcome? So what would it take to anticipate a positive outcome? Right? And so a lot of what I do, and especially I talk to business people, it's about ownership and the ability to respond. Responsibility is your ability to respond instead of react. If you're reacting, that means we're stuck in a negative place. If we're reacting, we're in that small, sad cold. We're reacting to something unresolved. Cool, so let's go find our clarity. Awareness, step 1. Acceptance, step 2. Because there's people that are aware and refuse to accept what they're aware of. That's not right, that's not true, that's not how it is. Okay. In fighting, you got punched. No, I didn't. You're bleeding. You get punched hard enough, it hurts, it doesn't work no more. I can't raise my arm. Yeah, I'll bite your kneecaps off, right?
Yeah.
So awareness, acceptance, then appreciation. And appreciation comes in 2 flavors. There's gratitude appreciation, like thank you for telling me, thank you for making me aware. But there's also gratitude or appreciate, like I can relate. I've been in a similar place. That's how you begin to build rapport with people. That's how you begin to influence. And that opens the door for you to take ownership of your actions and your impact. And once you've done that, that's where your power is to affect a positive outcome. But if you don't own your impact, if you don't say that's on me, well, that's not what I meant. Okay, doesn't matter what you meant. This is what you did. This is how it went. This is the actions. This is the reactions. This is the problem we're dealing with.
Well, you're triggering me, not so much thinking about myself, because I'm like sitting here thinking, I deal with a lot of people who deflect. I call it deflecting. Yeah. They don't want to take ownership of it. Like, oh, it's this guy's fault. This guy's fault. Oh, she was supposed to do that. So how do you handle people who don't take ownership of themselves in business?
That's fair. That's fair. Okay, so it was on them. Cool. What was your accountability system? Did you delegate that task or did you abdicate that task? Because if you delegate it, there should be measures and checks and balances. If you abdicated it, you threw it over the wall and hope like hell they would pick up the slack. So I'm not here to judge, but I don't have the luxury of wasting time. So did you delegate or did you abdicate? Because we got to fix abdication. That doesn't work.
So you're basically bringing that back around to their plate and saying, handle it.
Dude, even if you gave it to someone else to do it, why didn't you do the due diligence on the person that you gave it to? Because you should have checked them or had checks and balances because I trusted them to do their thing. Okay, fantastic. So is this a systemic problem? Is this an educational problem? Are you not in the right role? Right? Get the right people on the bus in the right seats is the goal, because then we can go fast. Right people, wrong seat, got to change the seat. But wrong people, I mean, look in sports, there's people that on one team and one franchise, they struggle, but new franchise, they explode because the culture's different, the communication's different. And sometimes you have to have that conversation with a team member and say, look, you're fantastic, just not here. Because the way our systems and processes, the ball's being dropped here, here, and here, we can't have that. We can put you on a performance plan. You got 90 days. And this isn't to judge you or shame you. We really want to get you in the right seat on the bus. But after 90 days, if it's still too big of a stretch, this might not be the right bus for you. And we want to get you to a place where it is the right bus, because that's what you need and deserve. That's what your family deserves, what your teammates deserve, and that's what we deserve. Win, win, win. Yeah. I'm taking 100% ownership. Maybe I put you in the wrong place. Maybe I didn't make my expectations or my outcomes clear. But if I'm going to hold myself at that standard, you bet your butt I'm going to hold you to the same process. Maybe not at the same scale or speed, but now we can ladder that. And it's like, look, I get it. You trusted this person to do their job. So how do we break this? What was the due diligence? What was the? And I'm not here to judge. I'm here to figure out so that we don't have this go make new and interesting stupid things. Don't do the same stupid things. Right?
Yeah. Good points. Great points.
I love this stuff. To me, it's all the same, right? Inside a family, inside a business, inside our own heart and mind. To me, it's all the same mechanisms because it's all stories and games, and it's just that's all we're playing with. I have a matrixed frame inside my head that everything connects to everything. It's just figuring out how. And then now you have domain expertise here. We can translate it. Call it cross-contextual. But you're expert here, fantastic, we can move it over. Now, you may have the emotional bandwidth of a brick. Okay. But we can do some work there, but there are limits, and that's okay too, because again, right seat on the bus. Maybe this isn't your job, maybe this is your job.
Yeah, you put a lot of thought into this stuff. I can tell you just get all hyped up. I love this.
This is what I love to do.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good that you're passionate about it. That's why, you think about it from I like how you position things, because you're thinking about it from a point of view of like, okay, there's a problem, and like you said, we're going to figure out how to solve it. And there's a system in your brain that you've figured out how to solve pretty much any problem, to a degree. Maybe you can't find the cure to cancer, but you can find you can put someone in the right mindset to cure cancer.
There you go. Yeah. And it's, not every game is winnable. And that's okay, because you don't have to be, like when I ran the Kung Fu school, you don't have to be friends with everyone. That's okay. 2 notes on the keyboard next to each other sound bad because they create dissonance and they crash. You can be friendly with everyone because that's your standard and how you show up and to add to the net positive around you. Mm-hmm. And you can realize that person and I, we're too similar in too many of the wrong ways to really be successful. They're fantastic and they're good in all these ways. But we crash in some areas that, we're not enemies, but we're not really friends, but have a lot of respect here and here. Like, we don't need to be in fault and blame and character assassinate people that they don't like me. Do they actually really know you? Right? There was a celebrity that was like, oh, somebody's going to criticize me, talk shit, they can call me and we can have a conversation. And if they don't have my number to call me, they don't know me, so they don't get an opinion. And I was like, ooh, that's brittle. Like, you can't hurt me without my permission. Mm-hmm. Right? You can say stuff and I know you're not in a great place, and that's fantastic, and I'm sorry that that's the way it is. But I only feel bad if I agree with what you're saying. And it has to start inside here. There has to be a doubt or an insecurity or a fear or a wound, or there has to be something inside you that the other person is inflaming. And so you need to resolve that. And maybe they're right, and maybe you do have something you need to make restitution or take ownership or grow or something. Right?
So what do you see, as like, I don't know, do you work mostly with business people? Do you work mostly with, families? Like, who do you coach or counsel the most?
My best guys are dads 40 plus in business, because my stuff is a write-off, because it's executive coaching. It's a bespoke executive consulting process. And we talk on communication, whether we're dealing emotional, personal stuff or business stuff, it still comes into brand position. It's why I'm a consultant, right? Because what I do, we're going to get to a result fast, but it's usually guys 40 plus and usually dads, because they've already done a bunch of stuff and it didn't work, or they spun their wheels, or it wasn't complete, or it left just dangling stuff that they're like, but what about? They don't have a system where it all connects. Cool, let's clean that up. I will give you a cogent system. I call it Lead Like a King. And the 3 relationships every man has to master is your past, which is the boy, your present, which is the man, and your future and your legacy, which is the king. And I have a roadmap that we go through. I have an assessment you take, and it gives in 9 dimensions. We know within a couple of minutes, here's the gaps and where we need to get to work, because it all relates. And what we said earlier, if you kill the boy to be the man, you got to kill the weakness. That's dangerous. I'm going to kill my feet, is what you just said to me. I'm going to kill the foundation of my building, and I'm going to build a skyscraper. Your foundation has to be strong. You don't destroy it. You strengthen it. Nurture the boy. Master the man. Lead like a king. Those are the 3 phases. Your inner child creates playfulness and safety. Any fault, any blame, any guilt, any shame, any self-sabotage, that's all inner child first layer. That's wounds, it's problems and self-sabotaging games. Then we can talk about the man. But when the boy is integrated, you're playful and you're creative and you take ownership. Then the man's about identity, presence, and power. But not to kill, not to destroy, to be your true best self. And there's battles, because that's part of the deal as a man. But who should we be battling? It gets more clear, instead of everyone. And then Lead Like a King is about vision, protecting, and providing for what the kingdom needs. And if you're still on you, which is fine, that's in the man band. When you're about the legacy, the family, the community, the kingdom, you're thinking more globally. That's the realm of the king. It's like the sun shining. The sun shines because it's in its nature to do so, not because the earth cares. I'm going to shine because it's who I am. I'm going to give because it's who I am. This right now is me being the king. This is who I am. Right? Well, I should go slower, and I should parse it out, and I should this, that, and the other. And I'm like, I could. But I feel like I'm hamstringing myself if I'm not, like, this is where I'm at. And I'd love for you to come join me. Leaders create more leaders. Let's go play.
So for dads over 40.
Yeah.
And for guys under 40. Because eventually we're all going to be, hopefully I get to 40, hopefully I get there, but there's a lot of people who, are there or over or about to be there. Prep the young guys. This is for the young bucks. If you're under 40 years old, listen to this. What's 2 or 3 pieces of advice you have for us younger guys who, when we get to 40, we can have our shit straightened out by the time we get there? Because I think that's the goal for a lot of guys.
Yeah, it's the first thing, right? You are going to be mid-20s into late 30s, early 40s. You are going to be in a place called kingdom building. You are a prince. You are looking to plant your flag and to build. And maybe you get a princess and build together. Maybe you build and then go get a queen, different methods. But you will have a compulsion to work for 10 to 15 to 20 years. There's no amount of if you love them more, you would. That does not work. Because you feel something inside of you that I have to build this. I have to create this. So with that in mind, get yourself one of these, which is a cell phone, and start planning the important stuff with the people that matter. When is your date day with your wife? When is your time with your kids? When is your time with yourself? You have to schedule that first because opportunity in business is infinite. Your children get one childhood. 18 years, they're grown, they're gone. That's it. And from 7 to 17, there's so much that happens. And if you're working because you have to go build, there's no we'll make it up later. Kids spell love, T-I-M-E. Make the time. It doesn't have to be 7 hours a day every single day. It doesn't. But make it intentional. So once a week, how are you intentionally interfacing with everyone? Once a month, how are you interfacing with everyone? Once a quarter, once every 6 months, once a year. Right? My wife needs a date every 7 to 10 days or she starts to get just tense. She just needs a boy who likes a girl who's out, not mom, not wife, not all these roles. Just out experiencing, doing anything. Cool. Write that stuff down. Your wife and your kids, they are your most important shareholders in everything you do. And a divorce can wipe out 50 to 80% of your net worth in one transaction. 10 dads a day in the United States kill themselves. And if a dad kills himself, his kids are now 40 to 60% more likely to kill themselves or to sabotage their lives through drugs, alcohol, and porn. Married men are 250% more likely to live compared to divorced and single guys. So a happy marriage is literally the best thing you could possibly do. But it doesn't happen by just luck. It's a skill you can build. So that's number one. Number one is the prince, kingdom building. Number two is plan around it. And number three is, what is a good life? What is a great life? Physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially, and relationshipally. And there's 3 relationships: intimate, wife or husband; personal, friends; professional, network. Be intentional in those realms. What do you need? What do you want? Right? 5 to thrive. What do you need? What do you want? What would you love to give and receive? What are your musts and what are your must-nevers? And there should be a tight, short list. And of the 5, the must-nevers is the most important. No, everything's amazing, except my wife occasionally, like every Tuesday, tries to stab me with a knife when I'm not looking. That's probably a must-never.
Yeah.
Right? Now, she's great, but, just freebasing heroin in her eyeball every now and then. That's probably a must-never, right? You got to get clear on those things. My wife and I only have 2 rules. Be honest, stay out of the friend zone. That's it. Makes for an amazing marriage.
Yeah.
Right? Because if either of us feels like we're being pushed into the friend zone, it's time to get honest. Hey, what's going on? I miss you. And we can have really powerful conversations. They're not always easy, but they are powerful, and they shift the gravity of our relationship and our marriage and where we go. And when your marriage is amazing, you give your kids a model that they're not going to handle knuckleheads very easily because that doesn't work for me. No, you're fine, just not fine for me. Have a nice life. Goodbye. And for your kids to be able to speak with that integrity, for me as a dad, as a king, did my job. Right? So those are the 3.
Those are the 3. Great information. Guys, Jeremy is just full of great advice, solid information. If anything, he could just talk you through your problems. I don't know if he could solve all your problems, but he could definitely talk you through them.
I got really good questions.
He's got great questions, great answers, great just mind exercise. Hopefully when you guys are listening, you're trying to think about, apply what he's telling you to your own lives and, try to learn something, a thing or two. But if you guys are still missing something, if there's a gap that you have questions or you need filled or you want to, get in touch with them, where can they get in touch with you?
I am the only Jeremy Roadruck on the internet.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's only 300 Roadrucks or so. So yeah, but if you go to leadlikeaking.com/quiz, you can take the King's Compass quiz and how are you doing in 9 areas. I changed the structure of it, so you got to make sure you put your email in, I think, at the end. So definitely do that, and then we can have a conversation. Or you can grab time, leadlikeaking.com/book-now, and that'll get you 30 minutes on my calendar. I don't really do like sales pitches. I'm just like, what's the situation? Because you're in the shit somewhere, cool. And what do you want instead? And what's it worth to make it happen? And then we figure out a budget and get to work. If I can solve this in the next 10 minutes, are you okay with that? Or would you prefer I drag it out for 10 months? Mm-hmm. I fixed a guy's sexless marriage in one conversation. Like, we talked on Sunday. His wife sat on the edge of the couch on Tuesday. They had a new conversation on Wednesday morning. They were in bed that night. And I have a video with him 6 months later. She comes out to apologize because the kids are home. And he's like, what? And they had a thunderstorm where they were living, and he was just out in the backyard watching the thunderstorm. And she said, well, if the kids weren't home, I'd be making love to you on that picnic table in the storm right now.
All right, guys. If that isn't reason enough to give Jeremy a shot, I don't know what is.
It's amazing.
Well, cool. Well, awesome. Well, Jeremy, thank you so much for coming on. Are you on social media anywhere?
I am. I'm on YouTube. I got a ton of content. I got a couple of cool playlists. I'm most active Facebook and YouTube. I am now showing up more on LinkedIn just because I'm moving more into C-suite founders, owners, because the impact of divorce is so much more powerful, and how it affects your kids and how it affects your business. And if you're at the top of the vertical, so if you're going unstable, what does that do to legacy for literally the families under you, the people under you is massive. And because of my NDA, nobody has to know we're working together. Like, I won't reveal names. I may talk about parts of situations, but nothing identifiable. Well, I work with this celebrity who you might know from. Like, nah.
Yeah.
We're not doing that. Like, it's all down low. It's cool.
Beautiful. Well, Jeremy, again, thank you for coming on. Thanks for sharing, guys. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with someone that you like. If you didn't enjoy this episode, share it with someone that you don't like so we can bore them to tears. But hopefully you did. I think this was a solid episode, guys. So, Jeremy, again, thank you, guys. We'll catch you on the next one.